So today I'm out doing a little bit of summer pruning. We finally have a chance to do that, and so I thought I'd do a quick little video. But first I think I need a sun hat. There, better. Fedora, dramatic lighting. Today on Lily House, Espalier, weird. However you say it. The tree thingies that go like this. Everything that I know. Things that I've done wrong. Things that I've done right. Espalier. Well, first things first, how the heck do you pronounce this thing anyway? Not some weird R thing on the end like it's French, because it is. If you want to, you can use the pretentious French pronunciation Espalier. Or you can just say Espalier. That's also listed in the dictionary as the correct pronunciation in English. Actually, I played the little pronunciation guide on the dictionary, and it sounded like this. Espalier. No, wait. Like this. Espalier. Repeat after me. Espalier. Good! Next up, rootstocks. Which to use? Well, a lot of modern experts recommend the dwarf and super dwarf rootstocks for these because they take up the least space. That's great advice if you want to wait 100 years before you have a functioning half-size espalier. Without getting into too much detail on the history of rootstocks and dwarfing rootstocks, back in the olden days, in the classic era of Espalier and all those sites and pictures that you see of historic espaliers throughout the world, they actually used the Paradise rootstock sets, and these were all actually in modern parlance semi-standard and semi-dwarf, fairly vigorous rootstocks. That's actually good because it typically takes a while to set up the chassis. You want to have everything right on it. And if your tree is growing too slowly, it will just simply never get there. Also, the dwarfing becomes a lot less important because when you move the branches down horizontally, the sap flows more slowly through them and you get less green growth and have less pruning to do anyway. So, we planted all of these on either semi-dwarf or semi-standard rootstocks depending on what we were grafting to them. For example, if it was a very vigorous tree, we'd use a semi-dwarf rootstock, and if it was a really slow grower, we'd use a semi-standard. More important than that is using rootstocks that are appropriate to your soils and climate, and choosing rootstocks that will be disease resistant. Speaking of growth rate, here's one I'm not happy with. Why? A lot of people say this one looks pretty good. It's already got some nice branches established going in each different way and all that. But here's the problem, and also the problem with using slower growing rootstocks, is that the most important part is making sure that these bottom branches, the first rung, are really well established and thick. Typically these should take 2 years or longer, 3 years. Some people recommend as much as 5 years getting the diameter up on these lowest branches, because over time these will end up producing the least fruit if they don't have enough time put into them to begin with to develop a lot of fruit spurs and get up their diameter. They'll also be weaker and more prone to breaking. Once you have higher branches and a higher sets coming in, then they will tend to never produce, they'll tend to get all the energy, and the energy won't go into these lower branches, so they'll never size up. Here's what I'm happier with. See, the lower chassis branch there has had a good 3 years of growth. It's a pretty decent diameter, a lot of fruit spurs already established, and so now we're establishing some of the second tiers and the higher branches, and those are all going to be okay because we have the foundation in place for it to work. Notice we're using strings on these lower branches or these newer branches as they come in. Part of the reason why is because they have to be allowed to grow up on an angle like that, so sap runs through them and they can actually grow. After they've reached full length, then we'll start pulling them down so the sap stops flowing. They put more energy into fruit spurs and less into green growth. So, why am I doing summer pruning? One, because I want to keep the growth limited. The Espalier form is a restricted form of tree, and we want to sap a lot of its growth out. Also, summer pruning helps the tree put energy into fruit production instead of green growth. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is reduce most of the new growth on the tree along the branches by about half. Next, look at these. They're called bypass pruners. See, because they go by like that, like scissors. These are okatsun. They kick ass. This is what you want. Caw! Caw! Here's what you don't want. These are called anvil pruners. See how those two come together there and meet in the middle like an anvil? Screws up your trees, rips them, makes nasty cuts, gives your trees disease. Like the brilliant Michael Phillips points out, one of the things I'm doing is trying to use my imagination, trying to pretend to be a tree. That's not hippie, that's cool. Trying to imagine how the light flows into the tree, how air flows through it, maximizing the photosynthesis, maximizing the airflow. Also, reducing most of this green growth on here is going to help me see the chassis better and help me understand what I'm doing. Yes, I said chassis, like the body of a car. It's what weird French people call this crap. And what it looks like now. A lot better, lots of airflow, lots of light, lots of photosynthesis going on, not a lot of room for disease. And another one. Here's the before. And now it's done. Looks better. Lots of light getting through there. Lots of sun. Lots of airflow. Makes that happy. Look, also I left a bunch of garbage in there. What's up with that? Modern advice is remove all that when the tree's getting established, because that crap will fruit. And we want to remove all the fruit when the tree is young, so the tree has maximum vigor. But that doesn't make any sense, which is why historic sources on Espalier say instead that we should be encouraging it to fruit as early as possible, because that fruit saps the vigor and turns our semi-standard and semi-dwarf fruit stocks into something that's going to be a little bit slower growing. It's still going to have great root depth. It's still going to be a very vigorous tree, but we're going to have an ability to control it a little bit more with the precocious early fruiting. So we're actually training and leaving a little bit of extra garbage on there because those are more likely to fruit next year, and fruit makes me happy. Plus, rabbit food. Here's one that's all whack. That's fine. See down there? Rabbits actually gnawed through and completely ringed this tree, so I had to do bridge grafts.
Bridge grafting is a technique for repairing trees wounded by ringing, where you graft little twigs like this in between the two bits of wounded bark.
Hey, look, it came back, but I'm letting lots of green growth happen. We're going to winter prune it, try to get it into shape, pick some things, and move on from there. I don't have my whole life to make this thing work. I want to get it done in a few years. Have fruit. So there you have it. It is a fruit tree, but it's also beautiful. That's a great way to grow fruit and create privacy for a yard. Here's the last tip. When I called my municipality, I asked them if this was okay, because we have a fence ordinance that says fences can't be taller than 3 feet in the front yard. I told them that this thing would be more like 7-8 feet. They asked, is it plants? I said, it's plants. They said, then it's okay. I said, cool. So there you have it. Espalier is pretty groovy, eh? Yes. So like, subscribe, do that stuff. If you found any of this useful, share it. Ooh, look, pears.